Okay, American Hammers TV. We have a special episode today. Last night we gave our season review of the men's 2018-19 season with a lot of people in that chat. There was, including me and Lee, there were I think 8. We tried to have 10, but 2 dropped off at the last minute. But still, eight gentlemen. I use loosely in a room together.
We also had a visit from Nigel, my alter ego.
Yeah, yes, we did. Yes, we did. That was kind of crazy, and it was a lot of fun. So we're definitely gonna do a part 2, just so everybody who's watching this knows. Basically, what we did was we had our previous guests that we've had on the show, to help give their input on the season rather than just taking one person. We wanted to give everybody a shot. So that said, we're gonna do maybe at least 1, maybe 2 more season review episodes before it's too late and irrelevant. But that said, our sponsor today, as always, is Strava Craft Coffee. They are out of Denver, Colorado. They treat me very well by keeping me stocked, locked and loaded with this good premium craft coffee. That this particular coffee is organically infused with hemp oil, which is really nice. No, it doesn't get you all high and stuff. It counterbalances the caffeine. So I do shows at 9 o'clock at night. I can still drink this stuff and get a nice sleep. That said, my co-host today is Wayne from Dallas. You might recognize him.
Cheers.
If you watched our show before, you recognize Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, definitely the more level-headed Wayne today rather than last night, for definitely.
And our absolute special guest, I really appreciate her coming on today, is Allie Coker. She is going to give her insight, since she knows the women's team inside and out compared to us. We have, we know nothing compared to her. So we really wanted to give a good review. And I'd like to thank Woman of Iron on Instagram. That's them, right? JT?
Yes, yeah,
JT, for setting this up. I really appreciate that. I tried getting JT on, and he said, you know what? I know somebody even better who knows a lot more than I do. So Allie, give us a little bit of background about you and how you became a hammer, and a little bit about what attracted you to the team, and then we'll get into more in depth about the actual season itself. So give us a little background about you.
Yeah, so I've been a West Ham fan since I was about 7 years old. My mother would kill me if I supported any other team, because she's been a Hammer since the 70s, and that came from her uncle, and so it's a generational thing. Even when we moved to Manchester, there was no way I could support any other team but West Ham. And then I got an interest in women's football during the last World Cup in 2015, which West Ham sort of had a women's team, but it was in like the lower conference, which was a lot harder to get to. So I sort of followed Man City for a little bit. Don't hate me. But then when West Ham got into the Super League, that was when I made the commitment to travel here, there and everywhere to go follow them.
Allie, you don't have a Manchurian accent. You don't sound like
East London born and bred, mate.
Beautiful. Way.
I am Bow, Whitechapel, a bit of Dagenham. And it definitely comes out when I start shouting at West Ham.
So the atmosphere around, the women's team has obviously dramatically changed since, Jack took over, the team, and the promotion behind the team and the whole atmosphere. Obviously that's noticeable, right? I mean, and it's not just him either. I mean, but there's been a lot more money put into the club. I mean, the women's club, which is awesome to see. And so what was the feeling like when did you first notice the change really around the club?
The big notice you see it was the first home game I went to, because it's now at Rush Green. They were playing in a place called Thurrock, which was quite a way out in Essex, and as well as Averley, which again was quite a bit way out. Rush Green's more of our stadium than the London Stadium is. Like, we actually own Rush Green, so it feels like West Ham, and that's when the difference really hit, because it's got the claret and blue hoardings, it's got the claret and blue corner flags, everything is crossed hammers, and that's when you're like, okay, right, they're taking this seriously now.
It's funny, because when I look back, like my time, I've been living here in the States since the 90s. And when I look back, like when I was going to matches when I was, a youngster over in England many bloody years ago, I mean, there really wasn't a women's game. There wasn't, and West Ham were pretty late at coming to the women's game, weren't they?
Yeah, they were quite late. Not as quite late as Man United, who have only just done it. But they were quite late, and for a while the fans didn't take it very seriously. I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago there was talk that they would play their last game at the Boleyn, and the fans kicked off because they said, no, we've already had our final game, we've already had the celebration with Man United.
I remember that.
And so no, and then it got rejected, and they didn't end up playing at the Boleyn. So West Ham fans and the club have been a bit slow into embracing the women's game, but this season they really have taken the bull by the horns. And
do you think it's because of the move into the women's champ and explain to me the league structure? Because I'm coming to this, and I'll be completely honest with you, I'm coming into this having watched probably 2 women's games.
Okay.
2 women's West Ham games that I've managed to catch online, and it's a devil to be able to see them online over here in the States. And I was very disappointed that we couldn't actually watch the FA Cup here on the States as well. That really disappointed
me. The BBC feed is blocked out in our country.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, I was really pissed off about that.
Watch it. It was awful. So what is the league structure like? Because I mean, I hear about like there's 2 different like setups or something.
Yeah, so the league is split into the WSL, which is like the Premier League of women's football. There was 11 teams, and now there's 12 because they promoted 2 this season. And then you've got the Championship, which is like the men's championship underneath, which again is about 12 teams. Then it goes straight into conferences. So that gets split by the countries. You've got the Northern Conference and then the Southern Conference. And then again, they have leagues as well. So you've got the Premier Conference, and it goes down like that. And so that's how it. So West Ham were in the Women's Southern Conference, and then they applied to get a license, which meant they could go straight up into the WSL, which is the Premier League.
Right. Now,
that's where the funding sort of came from.
I was going to say, is it a money thing? Is it really like the club just has to buy their way into the league, depending on how much money they have or how much money they put in, they get to place themselves to start off with? Or
the WSL and the FA won't give a club a license if they think that the club can't support their women's team. It's actually in the rules of the conference that you have to be attached to a men's team or a suitable source of funding. So, for example, Durham is attached to the university rather than a men's team.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Then you look at what's happened to Yeovil, whose club can't afford to support them, so they've now dropped down 2 leagues for next season.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a lot like the men's league over here. I mean, the men's leagues over here. It's there's no promotion relegation, so there are multiple divisions, multiple levels, but it's whatever you can afford. I mean, If you can afford to play in the 2nd division, you'll play in the 2nd division. If you can't afford to play in it next year, you drop down a couple divisions. However that works, it's really it kind of makes sense, Wait, you want to say something? It does
make sense, doesn't it? Because I mean, that way you do. I should imagine, apart from the fact that they say that, a team or an organisation has to fund you, that there has to be other things built around it. Like you have to show them support, and you have to be able to give them, like medical and insurance, and give them a certain amount of publicity and things of that nature. And there has to be support for the women that you're recruiting, etc.
Absolutely. It's like this year's the first time that they've made it in the contract that all players must be full-time if you're in the WSL, which that hasn't been the case previously. And in the division below, there was only 1 full-time team, and that was Man United.
Mm-hmm. What about the pay? Like, do you have any idea what these girls are getting paid, roughly?
Yeah, roughly. So the most expensive player is Steph Houghton, who plays for Man City, who's England captain, and she makes, the last announcement they made was about 65,000 a year. Yeah, exactly. The average wage of a WSL player is between 25 and 30,000 a year.
Wow. So they probably have to hold second jobs, most of them.
Yeah, especially in the like the WSL Championship. There was a very famous story about Sheffield United played Man City in a cup, and they asked if they could defer the kickoff time because half of their squad had to get from work, and Man City said no. So they ended up having to play like their 16-year-olds, the ones that could get to the game.
That's like non-league football. I mean, that's crazy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So the average wage is about 25 to 30,000. A lot of the time they can get endorsements. So like if you're a well-known name, Adidas will give you money, Nike, that sort of thing. They will give you money. You can do that. But a lot of them will have second careers.
Now, is there much? I mean, I don't really know too much about like even like the women's soccer over here in the United States, and I'm calling it soccer because it's women's soccer here in the United States as opposed to women's football back home in England. There seemed to be like a little bit of movement with people coming up from Latin America, South America, up to the United States playing the women's leagues, because I presume that the women's leagues here in the States actually paid half decent money. Is that something that people look towards when they're playing in the women's leagues? Everything. And in other words, what's the ultimate aim if you're a women's player over in England? What is it that you want to do? Who is it you want to play for, or where do you want to go with it?
The biggest thing is you want to play full time. That is the biggest thing, is you want to be able to not have to have a second job as well as all of the training. It's a dirty word, I know, but Tottenham's team have just been promoted, and their goalkeeper has said that it's the first time in 15 years she can say she can give up her job and be a professional footballer. So
it must be kind of hard standing on a street corner and then having to go in and play. Sorry, I know that's awful, but you know, had to get it in there. But
it's that sort of thing. Whereas I think in America, football is considered more of a women's sport. Like from bits and pieces I've picked up from my American friends, you know, soccer is what the girls play.
Yeah, it's actually a lot bigger. I'd say it's just as big. I mean, really. I mean, I know Wayne hasn't really paid much attention to it over here, but there are a lot of leagues. There are a lot of smaller leagues, but they're national. I mean, kind of like Wayne. Just so you get reference here, like the NPSL. There's the USL. There's leagues like that for the women as well, and they're nationwide.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And obviously, college soccer for women and youth. Obviously, it's massive. I mean, girls tend to gravitate toward soccer. They really do here in the States. But they get to a point, and then they end up having like Bree and Brooke and Erin. They have to go overseas to get paid, though. Now the women's national team just won their case to have equal pay as the men's national team, but it's not at a league level yet though over here. Just I guess that's like that anywhere, really. I'm looking at the different nationalities, the girls on the squad, and yeah, there's some English girls, but there's a lot of foreign girls. Now you think about this, they don't get paid a whole heck of a lot. You're saying that most of them are like full timers here. I mean, they all have to be actually, but none of them can. I mean, it would be very difficult for any of them to get second jobs if they're coming from a different country, right? I mean, you're talking Switzerland, Ireland, Holland, Scotland. I see New Zealand. I mean, they got to pay those girls a little bit more, maybe even. I don't know.
You'd hope to, but they also do things like they will pay for their room and board. There's a wage cap in women's football that there isn't obviously in the men's game. So they get around the wage cap by giving them like accommodation. They'll pay for that so they don't have to. They'll pay for them to have a car. They'll pay for, I know Carly Lloyd, who is a big American soccer star, she played for Man City for a season, and they got around it by paying for her accommodation. They paid for her medical. They paid for her to have a car. They paid for clothing. They paid for everything that was considered an extra.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice and all. You obviously hope that at some point it just continues to grow and they can make a lot more money than that. Because that sounds a lot to me like those lower level leagues that we're talking about, but over here, like Wayne, the NPSL, there's a lot of teams that will do the same thing. I mean, they'll get people from Portugal to come over here to the States to play on these non-league teams, and they'll just house them, give them, they'll let them coach the under 10s team to give them food money. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. They won't have like regular jobs and stuff, but that's interesting. Really is. Now let's start getting into the season itself. So, what was the first match this season you went to? Did you go to the first match?
Yes. So the first match they did that was in pre-season was the Continental Cup group tie against Arsenal down at Boreham Wood, and that was the first match I went to and got very hooked.
You got very hooked?
Oh yes, straight away.
Uh-oh.
I see a lot of
plans then.
I said that. There was me.
I see. I see a lot of pictures, especially on your Instagram and such that, of you with the players. I mean, are they really that? not proactive, but like they're really that open to the fans and stuff. I mean, they're really cool.
No, absolutely. It's the biggest difference, I think, between the men's and women's game is how accessible the players are. You know, it's I can't count how many pints I've been bought by players' parents because they know who I am and they know that I've travelled like I've travelled. So I've had a few pints courtesy of the players and their parents. And things like you talk about Brie, she found me on Twitter and was like, I can't believe you travelled 200 miles to our game. Come say hi next time. And so the next time I saw her, I think you used one of the pictures of me and Brie.
Yeah.
It's very accessible because they know that's how you grow the game. If fans
No, seriously.
Yeah.
How nice they are, then they come back.
Seriously, it must make
a ton. You thought, was it 6,943.8 miles? Is that during the course of a season?
Yes, that's the course of last season. I travelled. It's now 7,375 miles, 0.8.
You travel by car or by train or what? Because they need to either give you some petrol money or they need to get you a train card or something.
Oh my gosh.
It's normally a coach down and a train back, but it depends because some of these grounds, which is the downside of the women's game, are in the middle of nowhere.
Oh my gosh.
So
well, I can imagine they're playing at some pretty, I mean, when I think of like some of the non-league grounds I visited when I was, you know, like supporting West Ham many years ago, I should imagine probably some of those non-league grounds really aren't really that much better these days.
Exactly.
What
So,
I mean, are they what are the facilities like that the girls are playing at?
It depends on the club. For example, Manchester City have got a purpose-built mini stadium that their youth team play in and the women play in, and that is, I'd say, up to even championship level in the men's would love to have that sort of facilities. They've just recently held the England friendly against Canada. It's that level of standard. Right all the way down to Birmingham City, who play at Solihull, which is next to the airport. And I was once at a game where they had to stop the game because the fourth official couldn't hear because they were getting air traffic control interference from the tower into their earpiece. So it gives you that sort of level of what we're playing against.
Oh my gosh.
So what was your favorite away match then? Like experience-wise? I mean, not necessarily result-wise, but what was the best away ground, I guess, or the most interesting trip you had?
Yeovil.
Or an away match?
Yeovil. That took 2 days. I had to go down on a Saturday, stay over in Bournemouth, and then carry on to Dorchester on the Sunday, and then made my way back Sunday night. So that was 31 hours of travelling for a 90-minute football match. I'm
looking at some of these away matches.
Down on that trip.
You got Bristol City, Chelsea, Reading, Liverpool, Yeovil, Brighton and Hove, Birmingham City.
Did all of them.
Everton, Man City, and Arsenal. I mean, that was just, I think, those are just the league matches, I think, right?
Yeah. See, I liked the Man United and the Man City ones because they were local. Like, I didn't have to get up at 5 a.m. for them.
Well, so next year you're saying Tottenham and who else is promoted?
Man United.
Oh, Man United, okay. Well, those are some good away matches. Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I reckon the Man City Man United game will be the first segregated game in the Women's League.
You think so?
Yeah, I don't think you can mix those fans.
Is there any aggravation at all? I mean, because the two matches that I saw online, it looked like it was pretty amicable.
Yeah, like I did Chelsea away this season, and I was one of the very few West Ham fans, and I'm sat around Chelsea fans, and for when the men's game that would never ever happen. Right. And I jumped up when Gilly scored, and I realised I was surrounded by all these Chelsea fans, and I kind of went, "Oops!" And they're like, "Don't worry, she's one of us. You're fine. You're fine."
Oh my god!
Yeah, you tease each other, but it's always nicely. It's not mean spirited.
So
I'm sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
The fan base is it derived mostly from family, or is it friends, or is it? I mean, is there a reason why you got into it? Was there somebody you knew, or was it just that you was like, let me just check out the women's game?
The honest answer is because, like I said, I followed Man City first, and it was the fact that I could pay £6 and go see at least 5 England internationals.
Mm-hmm.
It was that affordability because, I mean, I wouldn't want to see Harry Kane, but I would have to pay a good £70 if I wanted to go see Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling. you go to Man City, you've got the England captain, you've got the England #1 goalkeeper, you've got, you know, a fair few that play for England, and I'm paying £6 for that. And then as soon as my team got a team, I was like, that's it, all in, claret and blue, can't support anybody else.
I hear you.
Did you notice as the season went along, the support grew, like significantly or no?
Definitely, because you saw things like they would show adverts in the London Stadium to say, come down, we're going to play Man City, or this is our semi-final in the FA Cup. And then you started seeing people, we were doing well, and they came down, and it started getting bigger. And then we were lucky that like Carlton Cole and Antonio are our ambassadors for the women's game. And that drew attention because people were like, oh, I might get to meet them too. And then they stay for the match, and was like, oh, wait a minute, actually, this is pretty fun, and it's good old-fashioned football in the fact the girls go in hard, and it's none of this falling over. And
Right. Was there a point during the course of the season where you were watching the women and you went, you know, I think we've got a special team this year, we might take this a little bit further?
Yeah, I think it was funny enough, it's when we lost, but it's when we played Arsenal. Most teams had rolled over to Arsenal, who are the eventual league winners, because of the team that they've got. But we actually gave a proper fight, and it was actually really close. We ended up I think we only lost by 4-3, and we put on such a comeback, and that showed the quality that we'd got. And Gilly, our captain, hats off to her. She has really galvanised that team.
And she's the women's hammer of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, who are some of your favorites on the squad?
Gonna say all of them. No, they're all.
Yeah, I know. You have some personal ties to them, actually. Never mind. I retract that question. Never mind. Forget that.
We know here. Rephrase it. Who are some of your favourites in some of the positions? That way, you can name a few favourites.
Raf, who unfortunately has retired now, but she's probably one of the best left backs I have ever seen. The pace on Raf, even though she's had 3 knee replacements, because she's done her ACL in 3 times. But she is one of the most paced players, and Adrienne Leon, who's also worked on the wing, them two linking up was something beautiful, I tell you.
Now, are there any more rumors about who's going to possibly be leaving at the end of this season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we let go of Rosie.
Can't believe that. Yeah.
Which I don't quite agree with, but there we go. And we had the 2 retirements. I'm hoping we can stick to a few. I honestly would be surprised if Becky Spencer stays.
Yeah.
Just because she was our #1 goalkeeper, and then Anna Morehouse seems to have taken that spot. And Becky is an established goalkeeper. She's played for Birmingham, Arsenal, Chelsea. I think she's going to want to try and get another #1 spot somewhere.
Is there a lot of movement within the women's game? I mean, is it similar to the men's game in that respect, or do you see that there's a lot more club loyalty in the women's game?
You see more movement in I don't want to call them the bottom tier, but you get the top 3, and they tend to stay because they get Champions League football. They get, more money. There's more development, things like Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City. The others tend, like Birmingham, Reading, West Ham, you see a lot more movement between them because they're at a certain level and they're hoping that they can push up. So, for example, Birmingham and Reading share a lot of players. Bristol, Reading share a lot of players that way.
So, like I said, I know very little about the game. If I'm watching a women's game for the first time, I mean, who's a couple of players that I should be watching out for on the West Ham side?
Who should you watch? Kate Longhurst. Kate Longhurst, you have to watch out for. She's our midfielder. She is one of our fiercest midfielders. If you do ever read my blog, you'll see that all of her dad's stories start with she accidentally broke someone's jaw, leg.
She sounds like my kind of player.
It's a running joke that, and she also, you will hear her yell at the ref if she doesn't agree with a decision. She reminds me a lot of Julian Dix.
Oh, perfect.
And awesome. She's a West Ham through and through. She's a West Ham fan as well, which is why she came and signed for us. So you definitely you definitely want Kate. Again, our captain Gilly has really galvanised our team, and she has fallen in love with West Ham. She told me that we've given her back her passion for football. So, and again, you definitely see that.
Good gosh. Is there a person on the team that you love to hate?
No, they're all lovely. They're
Come on. There's got to be one person you go. Sometimes they're fantastic, but sometimes why they just make the absolute awful mistake that you love them, but sometimes you just want to punch them right in the face because they just make such a mess up.
I never want to punch them, but I would say Alicia, our number 7, will have moments of absolute brilliance. Like if you watch the Reading game in the league, the 2 goals she got were phenomenal. But then she'll mess up and she'll get frustrated when she messes up, and then she starts fouling the other team because she's frustrated that she's messed up. And you'll suddenly see her push someone out of the pitch and stuff like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, I was just thinking exactly the same thing, Tim. I was thinking exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Good God.
So overall, I mean, they finished, 7th in the table, which obviously for the first year in the league, that's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
And they made an excellent cup run. So there's a lot to be proud of overall, I suppose. Now, you were saying that you were, you had to be a Man City fan because it really was, a West Ham team at the time. So what similarities can you see that what's going on, or what can you see from your experience as a Man City fan watching that team and then watching what's growing right now? Obviously, we're not probably anywhere as near that outside of the field or on the pitch, but you can kind of, what do you see, what similarities you see coming soon? Or I guess that's the easiest way to say it.
I think you saw it with our FA Cup run in the fact that we are getting that professionalism that Man City have, and we were so close. The first half, we held our own with Man City. The biggest thing is we were a brand new team. It doesn't matter that we had players that had experience, like Claire has been in the league for 10 plus years. Gilly has been in the FAWSL since it started. They'd never played together, all together. And that was the biggest thing. Now we've sort of got that cohesion and we speak the same language. I think that's going to we're definitely going to go up in the placings. I think we were unlucky in some of our results. And I do think we can be fighting for 4th, 5th with Birmingham and Reading, and then hopefully that will attract even more attention and bigger players, and we can only go up.
Are there any players that you've seen this season on the other teams that you would really love to see in a West Ham shirt?
Yeah, there's a player at Chelsea called Hannah Blondell, and she's a left back, which is Raf's position, and she filled in for Raf when she did her last ACL injury at Chelsea, and she holds that position really well, and she's not getting much playing time at Chelsea, which makes me think she might be tempted to come over because Gilly's there. There's a couple of other ex-Chelsea players there, and she would probably get regular game time, and I think that would be a fantastic addition for us.
You ever think about applying for a scouting position for the women's team?
See, if I did that, I'd want Kelly O'Hara, who currently plays for the Utah Royals. I think she's one of the best defenders going.
Who's that? There's a girl in the German national team that plays with Simic.
Julie Simic.
Yeah. No, there's a girl that, on her team, on her German national team, that is just unbelievable. If I had all the money in the world, like that, Mr. Sullivan has, I would go out of my way to buy that girl. God damn me. But I'll get back to that. But yeah. So, what was Morehouse thinking in the third goal against Man City in the Cup final?
Yeah, that was a lot of
What was that?
We were cursing her. We kept saying that she's spending too much time with Adrienne and should spend more time with Fabianski, because that was definitely an Adrienne move.
Poor old Adrienne.
I love Adrienne, but come on, he gives you a heart attack every time he runs out of his goal.
I agree with you. Every time he go anywhere near the ball and pick it up, I'd be like, don't trip. It's like
his passion, though, man. He's just so passionate,
Yeah,
he's ahead of himself sometimes.
The FA Cup day was always like a big day when I was growing up. And then it seems like it's died off a little bit now. It's not as big a deal as it used to be back in my day, because I'm bloody as old as the Ark. I was looking at some of the Instagram pictures and some of the Twitter feeds, and it looks like nice and relaxed. It looks like for a start, the women, it looks like they actually went to Wembley the day before.
Yeah.
So how did that differ? How did the actual run up to the day before and the actual cup game itself differ? What was that like?
It was you know, we obviously went in as underdogs, so I think they felt a lot less pressure because it was very much a case of it was Man City's to lose. So they went in and did the whole. And Wembley, I don't know if you saw the pictures in the changing rooms. They had the infamous picture, which I absolutely love because you've got them all running forward towards the goalkeeper, and you've got Kate running in the opposite direction because her family and friends were down by us. So she's gone that way, and they've all gone that way. And so, but they all had their inspirational quotes, and it was a bit more relaxed, and it's the first time I've seen Beardy in a suit. He's normally in his shorts and his tracky top, and then by the second half he was in the tracky top. And
he's
gosh,
yeah, he seems
now,
like
what was the actual? I mean, because what was it, like 40,000 at Wembley for the match?
And a bit, and and we were the biggest fans by far. There was a few City fans over in the opposite thing, but all you could hear was bubbles going, and we were really going for it, and it was a brilliant thing because I mean, when was the last time West Ham were at Wembley?
2012, yeah,
right?
Wow. We had the playoff final. That's been a while.
I mean, because 2006 it was held in the what was it, that place out in Wales, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Cardiff.
It was Cardiff,
yeah. So yeah, it's been a bloody long time.
It has. Yeah.
I mean, do you think that we've got the gumption to do something similar next year?
Oh, absolutely. Because Gilly has won the FA Cup a staggering 8 times. She's won it twice with Arsenal and 6 times with Chelsea. So I think she definitely knows the significance of the cup, and it's something that definitely in the women's game the cup run's good. And I think we're going to get a good Conti Cup run as well. And that would be quite nice to see another name other than Arsenal or Man City on that one.
Now, what's the Conti Cup? Tell me what that is. What's that competition?
So the Conti Cup is the version of the Carabao Cup in the men's. So it's the League's Cup. It's called the Conti Cup because it's sponsored by Continental Tires.
Gotcha.
But it's only been going since 2012, and only 2 teams have ever won it. It's Arsenal or Man City. They're the only teams that have won it. And most of the time they played each other in the final. So it was always guaranteed it was going to be one of them. So it'd be quite nice to get another name on that cup.
Gosh. I mean, I wish that they showed more women's games online over here so we could actually see more of it. Because I mean, it really has been a challenge to be able to catch any of the games over here.
That's how the men's game grew over here, though. I mean, once they had that partnership with NBC Sports, where they pretty much aired every single match, that's when the game started growing over here. I mean, obviously, people like us have watched them before that, or followed the Premier League before that. But no, there's Wolves fans over here. There's Yeovil fans over here. There's Lewis FC fans over here. The game has grown so much over the last since 2013, really, and that was last year at Fox Sports, and again, they just started putting women's professional soccer on ESPN3, I think a year ago. I think last season they did that, and that was the first time that they've really done anything other than the women's national team here. So I would love to see international football over here for women. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it would help grow the sport. There's definitely a fan base for it over here. I mean, there's tons of women's soccer fans in the States, and it would help the league over in England grow.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
It can be done because your league, the I can't remember if it's the NWSL. I have to try and get to the right one. You can watch those internationally. I've got the NWSL app on my phone, and I can watch my team, the Utah Royals. I can watch, the Houston Dash play each other in live. Kind of have to be up at like 2 a.m. to watch it because they play.
Can't watch the team from Boston because they folded.
Yes, that is true.
So I can talk. We don't have one down in Dallas.
What's funny is my co-host Lee. He'll say it a million times. He was a journalist for that. He was a reporter for the Boston Breakers. They were called.
Yes.
Yeah, but they it wasn't. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had it was like a second or a third division women's team down at FC Dallas, and I was running the supporters group for FC Dallas at the time with my president, and she actually sponsored the team for their jerseys personally, out of her own pocket because they didn't have jerseys. They had to use the senior team's jerseys and try and find ones that fit. So she said, you know what? She said, I'm just going to go buy them jerseys. And she bought them the jerseys and put their names on the back. But we used to go out and we went every single game to watch them play. And they thought it was hilarious that we went out there and we did, you know, we chanted for them and sang for them all the time. And they were mums with kids, most of them. But we had an absolute blast actually doing that with them. It was too much fun. It really was way too much.
That's exactly it. That's it's a running joke when they see me. They're like, "Oh, you're here again." I'm like, "Where else would I be?" It's like when I went to Yeovil, Jilly was like, "You know, you can just follow it on Twitter, right?" And I'm like, "I can't yell at Twitter when the ref does something stupid." So of course I'm here.
So you took your mom to a few matches. How many matches did she make it out to with you?
Mum went to a few. She came to the final. She came down to Yeovil. She did all of the Northwest away games because they were pretty easy. So she did Everton, Man City, Man United. But I've managed to convince her to buy a season ticket this season. So she will be coming to a lot more games with me.
I was going to say, did you drag her out, or was it just she wanted to see what all this traveling's all about?
Yeah, because my mum's always said that she would support West Ham anything. It could be a pack of dogs in a West Ham shirt, and my mum would go and support them. So,
let's be honest, this year, a couple of the matches, it's felt like we've been watching a pack of dogs. It really has been.
Absolutely. So she came down, and again, the women have got this passion that you've kind of lost with some of the men. Please, we've gone to a couple of the games at the London Stadium, and I saw them play Everton, and they gave up at that game. That game was a dire game.
I have a hole in my heart in that game. Yeah.
And they gave up.
About that last night, weren't we?
We were, yeah. So yeah, the NBC Sports has a fan fest where they bring the crew down, the TV crew down to a particular city or whatever, and they do the show live. And it just so happened to be that match against Everton, and I was surrounded by. I've never been surrounded by so many West Ham fans here in the States at one particular time, and yet. That was the worst experience of my life. I was miserable. I couldn't say a word. I couldn't sing, couldn't do nothing. I could not believe what was happening. And the Everton supporters that showed up were just horrible people, just excruciatingly horrible people. And I just made it that much worse. And I just wanted to, go home. It was that bad. But so, yeah, that definitely put, I still feel icky about it. You know, I mean, it still lingers over me that fucking match. But anyway,
I would have gone full old school on him, because when I see West Ham play that badly, it reminds me of being a teenager back in the old days, and I would have been like,
too far away from home. I didn't want to get arrested that far away from my house.
Kicking.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get in trouble that far away from my house. In case I need to tell money.
Bad stuff.
Whatever. So you said the experience. I mean, what do you think about the experience at the London Stadium, though? I mean, as a fan, I mean, people talk a lot, I guess, about it being obviously not the same as the Bowl-In. That's not obvious, but at the same time, you got 60,000 West Ham fans, or at least 50,000 West Ham fans.
But you don't. I mean, that's the thing. You
sure?
Don't. It's full of tourists, and it's full of away supporters that have managed to get tickets in the West Ham end. There is no West Ham atmosphere. They sort of sing Bubbles, and then it peters out once it gets halfway around the Billy Bond stand, so you've not got 60,000.
You're the third person that we've had from the UK that has said that on our show.
It's true though.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it until I'm lucky in the fact that I work in the travel industry, and Eva Air sponsor something at the stadium, and they managed to get me a couple of tickets because we book a lot of their flights. And yeah, it's the first one I went to, and the atmosphere is not. Boleyn was a fortress. We were so close to the pitch, players were scared to come and play us. Not so much here.
Yeah, I also remember the Upton Park could be an absolute toilet when there was 14,000 fans there, and we were playing like terrible. Yeah. I remember it not being a fortress. I mean, I remember those days. It's nice to look back romantically, but I remember the days when it wasn't so great. It's to me it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't look back on it, and you know what? Do I miss it? I'm not even going to say whether I do or I don't, because what's done is done. We've got it now. We've got it now, and it's just a matter of moving on with it.
So
it's going to take us a long time to figure out how we're gonna cope with it, but we all have to come to terms with it our own way. We really do. And maybe going to more women's games is the answer.
Exactly.
So is Rush Green? It's going to be their final home? Are they building another stadium? What is
no, that's where they're going to be for now, unless it gets bigger. But it's a nice stadium. Like, I really like it. It's just a bit temporary at the moment. They need to get rid of the porta cabins and actually build a couple of buildings.
So can you not even get like a pork pie or a pasty or something at Rush Green?
Yeah, they've got a chip van and all that, and they've got a bar in the clubhouse that will sell you a very nice, very warm IPA.
Are you serious?
Oh, blimey, a warm IPA. That doesn't sound very tasty. It does not. Are you listening, West Ham? You don't like the warm IPA. I used to. My biggest argument with Americans over here is when they say, you drink warm beer back in England. And I always say to them, it's not warm. It's usually in the cellar, so it's cool. But
it's cool.
It probably is warm there.
And it also comes out of a can, so when it's poured, it's not.
Bloody awful. Bloody awful.
Now, if you want to be clubhouse, you want to go to Birmingham.
What's the favourite beverage of the women's team? Come on. What do they mostly drink?
Protein shakes.
Protein shakes?
Yeah, they're protein shakes because in the clubhouse, that's where they go for their after-match food. So you can mingle with the players if you go in the clubhouse. And the amount of times you just see them, they're eating half a ton of pasta and have got a protein shake in the other hand. And
I feel terrible because there's a young lady. I think she was like 16 or 17 from Frisco in Texas, just north of Dallas. That was actually she'd been snapped up by West Ham and she was going over to play. And I don't know if she was playing for. I don't know if there's a junior women's team or if there's like is there that sort of similar sort of regime that goes up through the ranks as well?
They're starting to. The one good thing about Jack taking over the team is that they're building that infrastructure that we're going to have the female Declan Rice very soon. We're going to get that homegrown talent that we can build up. It's just not there yet because the youth team are youths. They're like 8. They're building the steps to have an under 12s and under 16s, the development squad, and then the full squad.
See, that really interests me. I've got a 7-year-old daughter, and up until this year, she's always said to me, "Daddy, I don't want to play." She calls it soccer, of course. She says, "Daddy, I don't want to play soccer. I'll go out there and stand out there in the pretty uniform, but I'm not going to run around and get sweaty." That's what she said to me. I'm not going to run around and get sweaty. But for some reason this year, she's really got into it, and we'll go out in the backyard. And we've got a big backyard, and we'll kick a ball around the whole time. And what's really great is we've got to also have a 130-pound dog who does all his business in the backyard. So I say to her, "Do not step on any dog do." So she has to watch her footwork. So she's
going to teach her to dodge tackles and everything.
Seriously, so she's like constantly dodging the dog do. So it's really teaching her some skills. It's really good for her. So she finishes ballet class in a couple of weeks' time, and we're going straight into football, which is going to be really great. But here, it's the best way to get to college here and to get it paid for completely is through soccer scholarships. It really is. If you're a girl, it really is a phenomenal way. And like Tim, I'm sure would agree. It's like it's really big over here. It's massive, especially with the success of the US women's national team. It really is. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it pays me to say you guys are the favourites to win the World Cup this year.
Well, I'd like to see England. I think England has done well.
Oh no, we're doing well.
Fantastic. I mean, me and a few of my buddies, we will be going to our local bar and supporting England's nationals team. And it makes no difference to us whether it's men, women, or dogs in an England shirt.
Hey.
So any opportunity to sing our songs and see England win something. Are there any women within the West Ham squad that you think are going to make it through to the England side? Because I know there doesn't seem to be that many.
No, we've definitely got those in international teams. So like Jane Ross has just been announced that she's made the Scottish team, and Cho is the captain of Korea's team, and Rhea Percival, our winger, is New Zealand's most capped player of all time.
Gotcha.
Men or women, she's the most capped New Zealand player. So in other teams, and There's a player called Tess Middag who's been injured all season, but she's coming back for next season, and she's in the Holland national team, and she's a cracking midfielder, so she's going to be quite interesting when she comes back.
Now, will all of the English women that are playing for West Ham go along and watch England play together?
I reckon a few will, because they have been in the England squad. So, for example, Gilly has been that centre back, so she will probably go out there because she's friends with Millie Bright and she's friends with Steph and things like that. So she probably will go out and go watch them play. But she'll also then go watch Scotland play because Rossi's there, and she'll go watch New Zealand because Ria's there, or she'll go watch Jamaica because Vian's there. You know, it's.
So you know the players of the women's team better than I know the players of the men's team.
Because of how well you get to know them, because like I said, they know me because I'm the mad woman that turns up. I remember at Yeovil, the bus came up and Raf got off and gave me this massive bear hug and was like, "Oh, there's my favourite fan." And the Yeovil fans were like, "Oh, that's why you travel." I'm like,
Do you have any crazy or funny stories from your trips on the road or even at home?
Crazy stories.
It could be it could even be irrelated. I mean, to the team itself. I mean, any
I think
other crazy fans or any fist fights with any other fans you had?
I did almost get beaten up by some Scousers at Everton, because at Everton it was me, my mum, and Jeff, who's Kate's dad, and I am known for being mouth almighty. I will shout, cheer for West Ham, even if it's just me. And so my mum has told me on many times I need to shut up because of who I'm around. And an Everton player went after Brianna. And Brianna's little. Like, I love Brie, but she is little. And went flying into the hoardings. And I was like, "What do you even think you're playing?" Like, on it. And there's these Scousers behind me that were ready for blood.
So have you not been ejected from any games this season by the referees? Did they give you any cards or anything?
No, I've not quite. I'm sure there's been a few.
Sure. Yeah, you can't. I mean, here you can get ejected. It's crazy. I mean, if you sneeze the wrong way, the referees can throw you out. Yeah, if you're.
Oh yeah, they will totally.
They will. Yeah, it's crazy.
I had when I was watching one of the women's games at down here in Dallas. I told a ref basically that he was, he. How can I say that he'd seen somebody make a tackle, but he hadn't really seen it the correct way.
There's definitely that in the women's game.
And he turned around.
Standards.
He turned around and he went like this to me. One more time. And that's all he did. One more time. And I looked at my friend to the left and friend to the right. I'm like, is he talking to me? They're like, well, we didn't curse at him. You did.
And aside from the players and obviously the players' parents and families and whatnot, I mean, have you discovered new friends? I mean, through supporters or like bumping into supporters on the road or even at home?
Absolutely. So when I followed Man City, I had my Man City family, and we'd go up and down the country. And I've got a West Ham family now, and we've, like you said, you've spoken to JT, and there's a couple of others, and we all stand together, and we all sat together at Wembley, and we all. And a couple of them have now given up their men's season tickets and are going to do West Ham women home and away, because for a while I was the away fan. There is a picture at Arsenal with me surrounded by red and white shirts and me in my claret and blue being like, just okay.
Good gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're going to end up having to do is, I mean, JT already said that he would definitely like to come on the show at some point, and I'm thinking, Lee definitely wants to be on the show too, and I think we should definitely do like a season preview closer to before the season happens, and get you back on, obviously, because this has been really a lot of fun and fantastic. I mean, is there any other stories you have, or any other insight you want to give us, or any plugs you want to give?
Well, you've already shared my blog, so thank you very much. I'm going to be updating that just because, like I said, it's quite interesting to be an away home fan. A home match is 440 miles round trip. So
it's a great blog. I mean, when Tim told me, he said, can you come on and do this today? And I just read through a couple of the blog posts, and it's You've done some crazy stuff.
That's it. I have.
You have done some crazy stuff, and it's a good read. You've done some great writing, and it's a well put together blog. I mean, a lot of times when you look at a blog, you're like, ugh. It's a really well put together blog, and if people didn't catch it before, it's at adventuresinClaretandBlue.com, and it's really wonderful. It's a great blog. It's well worth a read.
But yes, if you want a final story, just to sum up what our captain's like, she wasn't playing at the Bristol game because she had too many yellow cards, and they didn't want to risk her for the final. And I was telling this to a dad, and I didn't realise his kids were listening to me. And Jill came over to say hello to the kids, and they went, "Jill, can we ask you a question?" And she was like, "Of course you can." And she was like, "Why do refs give you so many yellow cards?" To which me and the dad looked at each other and were like, "Oh God, they were listening to what we were saying."
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Good gosh.
So, I mean, yeah, I really think that I'm really excited to see how this has gone. I'm so happy that they finished 7th. I mean, that's a good spot. They didn't get relegated in their first year, which is obviously, I don't think they did relegate teams, but either way, I mean, it was a good turnout. The whole program, I haven't watched every episode of Britain's Youngest Boss, whatever it is that, Jack was on. But
you watch episode 3, you see me almost get beat up by Scousers, because that's, you can, at the very end of the Everton game, there's a screenshot of me, my mum, and Jeff, and you can hear me before you see me.
There's only a couple episodes out there that we can see, and I know that there's a bunch of clips and stuff. So I'm hoping to find the full episodes.
I'll tell you what, I'll rip it for you and I'll send it to you.
Please do, because I mean, I would really love to finish watching that, really, and I would love to see that fight, or almost fight. That's awesome. But yeah, between that and the cup run and just the overwhelming response on social media, I've noticed that through JT's Instagram and everything else, even on Facebook, the West Ham fans, the groups, they're embracing it more. They're starting to really come around and say, you know what? No, we have to back our women, and that's all there is to it. Yeah. But there are, like you said earlier in the program, I mean, there are still the old guard. There's a few in the old guard that are just like, nah, man, it's not the men's game. That's what we're here for. And hopefully we can, everybody can convince them to jump on the ship, and really hope this becomes really successful. And I really hope that the women get paid more too at some point, especially in the English game. If they want to grow the sport, there's two things that need to happen. They need to pay the women more, and they also need to broadcast internationally so that all of us can start watching all the games, because it was really frustrating to watch 3/4 of a match and the feed goes down.
Yeah.
Or can't get the feed at all.
UK, like they feed it on Facebook, and the amount of times they say to you, "Oh yeah, the feed's gone down. Sorry, and
least they could do is put it on the website, so we could get it there like on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So, or like you said, on Facebook all the time. I mean, the 2 matches I caught were both on Facebook, and I caught them by accident.
Yeah.
The problem is, unless you're the big 3, they don't want to know about it. The only time they ever stream our matches is when we play Arsenal, Man City, or Chelsea.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's sad because they need to promote all of the women. They really do. It's because it's good. Like you said, and I think a lot of the guys, the old school guys that say, "Oh, it's the women's game," I think if they watch it, they'd actually enjoy it, because it's a lot more rough and tumble.
I was going to say that's
the Premier League game is. And then it's much more fun to watch. It really is.
It's not Sunday League at all. I mean, it's a big difference. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like trying to compare it over here. I mean, even the women's college game over here is very competitive and strong, and it reminds me a lot of very technical and rough and tumble. I mean, but that's also what attracts everybody to the men's game in England, is the fact that it's the most physical league. The Premier League is the most physical league in the world, really. Yeah. And I think that the women's league is, from what I've seen, it looks a lot like that. It's very similar.
Yes,
and now with Man U and Tottenham in there should be some more competition, and it should be a lot better.
Yeah,
really.
No, for sure. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I would like to thank you once again, Allie, for coming on today. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. We're definitely going to have you back on.
Awesome.
We'd like to do a season preview and get JT on there too, get him off his butt and get him in here.
Yeah,
and we're definitely going to have Bree and Brooke and Erin on in June. I don't know the exact date yet, but I know. And that'll be a great show as well. Wayne, thanks for stepping in today on short notice. I really appreciate it, man.
My pleasure. Thank you, Allie, for educating me on the women's game today. I appreciate it.
Just so everybody knows.
Some more old farts like me got educated on the game as well. And if you're out there and you're saying that the women's game isn't fun, you're an absolute idiot. Okay?
Hey.
To be watching.
Yeah, that's true. Just real quick, our next show is going to be on Sunday. We got the Arizona Hammers. And on Thursday, we have story time with Gary Perridge, which should be really fun. Story time. Listen, Allie, if you haven't seen one of our episodes, go back on our YouTube channel and look for the episodes with Gary or Holy City Hammers. The guy's brilliant. He's from England. I mean, he's from East London, and he's through and through. And he's a little. He's the best, though. He's the best guy. So what we just decided to do, since we had too many stories for us. That we couldn't fit on an episode, we brought him back, and then he couldn't finish his episode. I mean, his stories, they were so good that we said, you know what, we're going to get you a robe, we're going to get you a pipe, and we're going to have a story time with Gary. That's just going to be a regular segment of ours. So we're really looking forward to that. All right, just hang out, guys. I'll stop recording, and we'll chat for a minute off the air. Come on, you irons.
Hey.